I think I'm like you before that fight where like getting hit in the face or I don't know, I'm a non-confrontational person. I wouldn't find myself wanting to be in those situations. And you talked about bleeding over a trash can thinking, "Oh, I can do better than what I just did. This is just a start." Does it take a certain type of personality to be a fighter?
I believe it does.
What kind of personality is that?
That's a great question. I think it's somebody who is not deterred by failure, and by big failure. I mean, I think that's a big part of being a fighter is realizing that sometimes you are going to get your ass kicked, and it's going to happen. And you kind of have to be at peace with that. You have to make one with that. You have to not let that be a reason to stop. You know, there's a lot of things in life that I look at and I hear people will say, you know, I could never do that or I would never do that. And that's just a choice. You know, let's say, you know, I'd never, somebody would say like, oh, I would never go skydiving. Yeah, but there's just a choice. My choice would be if there's anything that I want to do and I want to set my mind to, I can do it and I will do it. And that's just the difference in mentality is like, I will not set limitations on myself. So I will not say that there's anything that I can't do or that I won't do.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of it too, is you have to be ready to face the consequences if you go into something like a fight and you're not prepared, you know. And I think that's really a lot of what it boils down to, is just being one with those thoughts in your head. And also not fearing fear itself. Fear is a very healthy emotion. It's there for a reason. You know, a lot of times new fighters will ask me, you know, man, I get so nervous before a fight. And I say, good. I was like, that's your body letting you know you're ready for war.
Yeah.
Be at peace with it. Fear is only a problem when it becomes crippling, when it doesn't let you do what you need to do. Fear has an okay place. All emotions have a place in life. Being angry has a place in life. It's not a bad thing to feel angry. Like if I was to, you know, invade your space and you got angry about it, I'm like, well, that's an appropriate reaction, right? Fear is also an appropriate reaction when you're going into hand-to-hand combat. So if you can become comfortable with the fact that, you know what, I'm nervous. That's okay. And you become at peace with those emotions, I think that is where the fighter is determined. You know, people who can't become at peace with those emotions, they can't stomach it or they don't want to, or it becomes crippling, then fighting is probably not for you. But if you can accept those feelings and if you can be one with those, then I think, I think that's what it boils down to.
Do you feel pain in the moment, in the ring, as you're fighting?
I don't, to be honest. I mean, there has been moments in time when things have stung. Like in that first fight, I'll tell you, when she was on my back, she actually sat up and she punched me in my ear. It was one of the few times that, and that really hurts. You know, if you've ever flicked in the cartilage in your ear, kind of felt like that.
Yeah.
So I remember that, but like 99% of the time, pain is not something that you feel in a fight. You're just in a different kind of flow state. So you feel impact, you don't necessarily feel pain.
What is that? How would you describe that flow state? Like, are you just naturally reacting and you don't even know what you're doing? Are there moments of clarity? Like, take me through your mindset in the middle of a fight.
So I would say it switches between all these different modes of thinking. Obviously, you have to be reactionary, and that has to be something that you're confident in, something that you've drilled enough in practice to where we call it muscle memory. So even if you get rocked, for example, your conscious mind might not really be online, but how are you going to react when you're offline a little bit? You know, and that happens a lot, even in situations where you're just entirely exhausted. And you have to just react based on your instincts. So how well have you honed those skills to be the right instincts and the right tracks and the right things that you do? And then there's moments in time where you are separate enough from each other that you can actually then come back online a little bit, take in information, remember the game plan, notice the things or tendencies that the other person is doing, right? Look for the openings, because you can go out there and just be a brawler and throw gravel from your back pockets, so to speak. And you might get somewhere with that, but once you get to a higher level, you realize that fighting becomes so much more about a skill set. So you think of it as like a physical game of chess. It's much more about setting and laying traps than it is about just being the more aggressive brawler, barbaric type fighter.
Yeah. You talked skill sets, and obviously, as we touched on, UFC fighting, mixed martial arts is a bunch of different disciplines. When you're going into a fight, how do you analyze your opponent? What are some of the things you're looking at in terms of looking at your style and her style and best way to approach it?
So I watch film on my opponent, and I try to break down tendencies, and I also ask my coaches for things like that too. Unfortunately, there's film on every single fight pretty much that a person has had. So you formulate a game plan, but I'll tell you what, game plans can go out the window really quick too. So flexibility is very important in our sport, and sometimes what we thought would work isn't working. And sometimes what is working still needs adjusting to capitalize, because you have 15 minutes to try to physically dismantle somebody to where they can't continue. And that's the objective. So 15 minutes isn't a lot of time to work. It's a lot of time to get exhausted if you don't do things well or right. So there's also a category for efficiency too. I'll tell you what, throwing punches hard and missing is one of the most exhausting things that you could do. So accuracy is also important.